What's something that you like, but hate the fan base? Harry Potter. I said this before, but I loved the books and movies growing up and they were a big part of my youth. But the community can be pretty intense, especially when they're treating houses like they are zodiac signs. Edit. I don't know where a lot of you are getting that I think zodiac signs mean anything. I'm just using that as an example of the extremes of the fandom. And Pottermore has only added fuel to the fandom fire. This is where I can tell my story about how I almost got physically beaten up by my sister after joking around that Hufflepuff was a communist house. Due to their valuing hard work, equality in the community, Hufflepuffs are the stoners 1, direct pathway to the kitchen 2, headed up by the professor of herbology 3, the name. Rick and Morty. I love the show, but some of the fans are really weird. I actively avoided watching the show for a long time because of how stupid their fanbase came across. When I finally did, it became one of my all-time favorites. You're just not gonna catch me squirming on a McDonald's floor yelling about Szechuan sauce. Yep, still my fav show, but the extreme portion of the fan base is embarrassing. My wife bought me a couple of R&M shirts for Christmas one year, a Mr. Poopy Butthole and a Screaming Sun shirt, but had to stop wearing those out in public. Either didn't want people to think I was one of those Szechuan sauce yelling fans, or people would always come up to me going off on some crazy theory they have about the show and I'm just like I just think the show is funny. Undertale and Deltarune. Both are fantastic games, but I can only take so many comic fan-dubs, AMVs, fan-made spin-offs, and crack pairings until I want to foist a tomahawk through my primary motor cortex. Marijuana. Edit. There's a couple of them in this thread. I used to smoke. Stopped when I found out I was pregnant, but I know someone who constantly sends me snaps of him rolling one, smoking, dabbing, all with shitty ass music playing in the background. Dumbus works at a dispensary, and his entire paycheck is given back to the dispensary so he can buy flour or wax. He pays no bills, so he's basically handing his full check back to his job every 2 weeks. Shame how far down I had to go to find this. Half the reason I want weed to be legalized is so that stoner culture dies out. It's definitely died down a lot on the West Coast. When your mom and stepdad are smoking here and there, it's not taboo anymore. Friends. Some of the fans consider it the pinnacle of TV shows and some of them just go berserk on people who don't share their opinion. I can see that. I also think this relates to The Office. Just looking for the gem to my pan. Hamilton. Oh god. I dated a girl who was so into Hamilton that she would visit musicology sites that picked apart every line for hidden meanings. She made me watch it and I think she was disappointed that my fave character was King George III because he made me laugh. Hamilton is so good, but the romanticization of actual historical figures, the terrible memes, and the I know everything about history because I know Hamilton lyrics bothered me so much. I work on Broadway productions for a living. Some of my good friends were in Hamilton's OBC, and I've seen it multiple times thanks to them. The thought of interacting with the fandom honestly makes me die inside. They're fucking nuts. And the weirdest thing for me is that they try to make their historical figures out to be some lefty folk heroes, completely ignoring that Alexander Hamilton has more in common with someone like Paul Ryan if he had a spine than anything else. And Washington owned a huge amount of slaves, and Mulligan did very little of the grunt work. That was mostly his slave, Cato. Hamilton basically invented how Wall Street works if he was alive. You'd think he sucked. The thing that disappoints me the most about Hamilton is how quickly it became a status symbol thing to have seen a production of it, much like with the Book of Mormon several years ago, except 100 times worse. I'm sure it's a great show and a fun time, but everyone where I live bragging about going to New York or Florida or Puerto Rico to see it and spending hundreds if not thousands of dollars per ticket got annoying real fucking quick. Then there are all the NYC based writers and actors I had to mute on Twitter for a while because their feeds became endless Hamilton spam. Oh, but if you can't afford to see it, don't worry, you can listen to the soundtrack on Spotify. BTW, here's another backstage selfie I took with Lin-Manuel. The band Tool. Their fans are called Toolabans for a reason.
Did you know they calculated a song Bro, it's about how the steel beams in Tower 7 proves were descendants of apes that got alien sperm injected into them by a demon. Bro, and their drummer is sick. He's totally in the Church of Satan and his kit is like set up to a Bible verse. I actually started drinking wine because of Maynard, and just because of Maynard. Something like that.
You know, I used to think Maynard was a dick for not liking his fans. I think your music is cool, is that so bad? But then I met the real Tool fans. I totally get where he is coming from. I still think he's full of himself, but what frontman isn't? Joe Rogan's podcast. The teachings of Jesus. If Jesus saw some of his fans, he'd flip a table. K-pop. Oh, I began despising the K-pop community a lot lately, especially because I use Twitter a lot next to Reddit. You can search for any trend and you will find fans trying to shove their favorite group in every post. Supernatural. Great show with likable characters, but it seems like all the people that watch it are wannabe emo or the kids that weren't cool enough to join the anime groups. I came here to say this. A lot of them also want Sam and Dean to hook up despite them being, you know, brothers. Or Dean and Castiel. Or Dean and any other male character in the show. They're so creepy. I did enjoy the one episode where they find out they have fans and that people want them to sleep together and they give a very what the fuck kind of reaction to it. Not all, but I know so many MCU fans who are cringy AF. Just can't stand the posts they spam. I love the movies though. Not to mention they spoil the endings of every MCU film within an hour of the film's release. Usually with cringy memes. Was spoiled for Endgame on Instagram a few days before it was released in North America. I was not looking for spoilers. I wasn't even on a Marvel related post. Still bitter. Anime. Every time I find one that I like, I mention it to other people and then they feel the need to shit on whatever I'm watching and say I should watch something else because it's better. I never understood this. When I first realized anime was a thing, I just took it all in. I watched and enjoyed most of it and never understood how someone could be wrong for liking something. Then I grew up a bit and my tastes evolved and I narrowed down what I did and didn't like. That's what's great about it, right? Anime isn't a genre, it's a medium. So there's something for everyone, right? Well, according to a lot of weebs I am wrong there. So dumb. The band Queen. On any YouTube video where anyone discusses a band or song they like that's not Queen, there will be comments about how Queen is the best band, and how Freddie Mercury is a messiah or a god, and how every other singer should blow him. And when someone discusses a Queen song and expresses criticism, there are fans who act like it's a personal attack on them and get way too defensive. They're just annoying. I like Apple products, but I hate hearing over excessive praise or hate for them. This is just a computer phone, whatever I like. Just let me use it in peace, got them. RWBYR/RWBY can be hell on earth. True. The fanbase is just so toxic and hateful. The worst, worse than all the shipping and force-fed opinions, are the people who say, this isn't what Monty wanted. Those folks infuriate me. They are so petty over small decisions they will bring up a dead man's opinions out of context, and say his closest friends have no clue how to make the show he trusted to them. Like they don't seem to see the pain they cause the creators of the show they love when they do that. No, actually, they see it. They just don't give a damn. Say his closest friends have no clue how to make the show he trusted to them. This is the part that gets me the most. Not only did he leave the show to them, but Miles and Kerry were involved since the earliest inception of the show. Monty made cool fights and ideas, and Miles and Kerry figured out how it made sense and made it into a story. That's 90% of how the show was made. But if anyone disagrees with something happening, even fucking shipping, it's not what he wanted. It could be Monty's own bloody script and people would say that. National parks. Most of the people who go there are loud, obnoxious, litter everywhere, demand special treatment, act like idiots. Get a picture of me between the mama bear and her cubs. I'm going to pet that moose. Look, a buffalo. I'm going to slam on the brakes. They whine so much they had to put cell towers in the backcountry of Yellowstone because too many people were whining that they couldn't post selfies to Instagram. I like Markiplier for his videos and ideas and sometimes the games he plays. My fiance is also a huge fan, but after buying tickets to his You're Welcome tour, I never realized how much I dislike the majority of his fan base. There was just a sea of multicolored hair and nose rings tattoos. They all dressed similarly and many were incredibly young. I don't mind any of that on its own, but some of the fangirling fanboying reactions were downright obnoxious. It was obsessive and excessive. Just things like the fans flaunting how much they know about Mark in casual conversation like, "Oh yeah, Mark is definitely into insert generic thing here." I remember him mentioning that in August of 2012 during his Let's Play. Then someone else would say something similar, and it got to points where it got a little creepy with how much trivia they knew about him. And it seemed like they never knew how to end a conversation with us and would just keep talking to us about Markiplier even though we obviously indicated that we A. did not know nearly as much about him, and B. wanted to talk about other interests and hobbies as we waited in line for the show. I just remember feeling fatigued from the conversation and a little sad because I hadn't met multiple people so unilaterally fixated on one fandom with seemingly no other interests before. Being internet famous must be difficult when you get so much unwarranted attention. I guess that makes Markiplier lucky. Hunting and guns. I was taught a respectful way of hunting. That a kill should be as instantaneous as possible as a matter of decency and skill. That one should not take more than they need. That one should be grateful for the life taken, etc. From a modern perspective, I consider an animal that has grown to adulthood roaming natural forests and marshes to have had a better life than a factory farmed animal. I also just like living off the land and being in tune with my local wilderness and weather. However, it is impossible to be socially involved in the community without getting into some prejudicial NRA politics within the first 10 minutes of any conversation. Reggae music. Can a guy like reggae without being associated with stoners? Not really, no. The fanbase completely ruined FNAF for me. I like the games themselves but my goodness is the fanbase bad. Undertale has a pretty nasty one too that I am guilty of being part of in the past. I'll forever love that game but the fanbase is the worst. Thank you for watching. Smash that like button like it's a
thick booty.
And don't forget to subscribe to OKPJ Dark if you like nice things, like new videos every day. See you tomorrow.